Hello, welcome ladies and gentlemen, whether you're joining us here at COP26 or online. It's really an honour for me, Robin Hart of Wilton Park. I'm part of the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to be hosting this session on the Regional Climate Weeks and the 2021, the high-level side event. So it's an exciting gathering to celebrate what was achieved through those climate weeks. I want to thank all the ministers, the leaders and the ambassadors for taking time during this very busy second week to contribute to this session and to hear, as we will do, about the power of the regional collaboration through those regional climate weeks and how they really helped build momentum towards strong outcomes here at COP in Glasgow. I was very pleased to play a very small part in all three of the climate weeks, and we remember we went virtually to Latin America and the Caribbean in May, to the Asia and Pacific in July, and to Africa in September. But I was able to witness firsthand how those climate weeks really advanced discussions and shared experiences in critical issues. So I congratulate all those who were involved in them. And many of those critical issues are being deliberated here right now by governments. Now, a key part of today's event is a handover of the communique from those regional climate weeks during 2021 from the organising partners to the COP26 presidency. And this communique brings those key regional voices to COP26. It redoubles the commitment of the organising partners to convene these platforms for collaboration. It calls attention to the global themes that emerged across those weeks and across those sessions, and they are featured in a global overview report that connects them to the multilateral process. So those outputs are a very important part of this communique, and it encourages all parties and stakeholders to use this platform to advance their actions and partnerships. Now, to start this handover, we will hear from leaders of global partners who will join to hand over the communique. I'm going to start, if I may, and invite Achim Steiner, Administrator of UN Development Programme. Achim, it's wonderful to have you with us. If you would like, you're welcome to stand at the lectern, or if you haven't got a microphone, perhaps you come here. That would be lovely. Thank you. Please. Or there's a roving mic if you'd like. Thank you.
As always, at service. Thank you. Thank you so much, and to my fellow panelists, it's a great pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a kind of handing the baton over, if you want, to the UK presidency. These regional consultations that the UNFCCC, that UNEP, UNDP, the World Bank Group, and others have facilitated, including those countries who hosted them, I think add another dimension to understanding not only how climate change in different parts of the world is become part of an overall reflection on what are distinct but related agendas, but also where regional scope for greater action is emerging. And in that sense, I am very pleased to be here today to be able to share some of the insights that came out of that. And no doubt we will hear from my colleagues on the panel also a little bit more about it. But just if you look at some of the things that stood out in these regional meetings for Asia and the Pacific, the lack of access to predictable and sustainable finance, but also the lack of access to reliable climate data. As you know, WMO, UNEP and UNDP have just joined forces also in another initiative to try and tackle that kind of continuing infrastructure lacking capacity that in so many countries actually makes the ability to deal with climate change as a phenomenon, whether through adaptation, through resilience, through risk management, more effective. So one area that emerged from the Asian and Pacific region clearly points to the urgency of these kinds of actions. In Latin America, the Caribbean region, amongst many other issues, countries pointed to several key needs that support the energy transition. Quite a number of countries in the Latin American Caribbean region, and again, also with the Caribbean, very distinct SIDS economy phenomenon, pointing to the importance of regulatory innovation and financial support for new technologies. Or to Africa, where, interesting enough, participants also highlighted, for instance, that sustainable mobility in Africa by 2050 is in fact achievable through investing in scalable and bankable business models, for instance. And We just saw, I think, yesterday on the BBC, some interesting examples from Rwanda. So often Rwanda, in a sense, very proactive in embracing technological frontiers in moving forward. And I think what we took away from all these regional meetings is that there is a great deal that is essentially unifying in terms of where the challenges are, but there is actually a significant degree of specificity that I think these regional consultations have allowed to emerge. And I want to thank again the host country governments, Dominican Republic, Japan, Uganda, and our long-standing partners for this. And I think probably given the brevity of time we have, let me stop here and simply say that for us in the United Nations Development Programme as part of the overall UN family, Glasgow and that which led to it, and I think we should not underestimate that everyone now focuses on Glasgow, the event, but actually Glasgow is also the culmination of another 335, or my math is probably wrong, days of the year, in which countries have actually, in fact, longer, given that we couldn't have a COP in 2020, have really begun to prove that in their national and regional realities, the world is stepping up with greater ambition. We all know it's not going to be enough, but part of what has been constructed on the way to Glasgow is proof that a global climate partnership could work if indeed everybody steps up. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Achim, and for giving your reflections from UNDP's point of view across all the regions, but also that those region climate weeks were staging posts, as you've demonstrated in your final remark, and how valuable that is as part of the process. So thank you for those very thoughtful comments. Can I now introduce Inga Anderson, Executive Director for the United Nations Environment Programme. Inga, your thoughts. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, and it's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you to our co-partners here, UNDP and UNFCCC, on this regional climate work. Just to say, while we've been sort of in the COP mode, UNEP has released a trilogy of gap reports, the production gap report, which shows that countries and companies are planning a 240% increase on coal, 57% increase on oil, and something similar on gas. I forget as I speak. We've also released the emissions gap report, which shows that we have shaved off, and we salute that really, 4 gigatons from with this set of NDCs. We updated it yesterday, so now it's 4.8 gigatons, but we need to get to 55 gigatons, so we need that greater ambition. And we issued the adaptation gap report, where there was some good news, because 71% of these 71% of countries in the NDCs have now action plans on adaptation in place. What is obviously needed is solidarity to finance. I say this because at the regional climate weeks and the conversations, it's absolutely critical that we get to making those systems shifts. And we at UNEP, we were privileged to be leading on the Seizing the Transformational Opportunity track. And what did we learn from that? There has been a vibrant conversation, for example, around energy, because there is a real desire to make that shift. That will require the finance, so the 100 billion on the table, et cetera, et cetera. But we are seeing, and private sector, listen up, a $27 trillion market in renewable. This is a possibility by 2050. And so this is about wind turbines, about solar panels, about lithium batteries, electrolyzers and fuel cells, and all of the above plus. We're also seeing, obviously, in the conversations, it's time to wind down fossil fuels. Hello, this should not be news, but that's clearly what we felt. And in the building sector, because we know that these 3 big contributors to fossil fuels are the transport, is the electricity, and of course buildings. And buildings is often overlooked, but energy efficiency in buildings is something, whether retrofitting or new, where there's massive opportunity. And so we found that many buildings still do not have, countries have the building code, so there's an opportunity there, retrofitting, better policies, and better design. And on transport, we're seeing a beginning of a shift, but it's too slow, to e-mobility. We need to expedite that. We went from the steam to combustion engine in 100 years, and we now have got to phase out. We've been in combustion engine for about 100 years. We need to accelerate. We can't wait 100 years till we've got the e-mobility. So we need to accelerate that, and that was part and parcel of the conversation. I think we all understand the young people in the street, the opportunities here, and the Regional Climate Week really enabled us to have these broader conversations, albeit on an e-platform, but frankly, that should be the way of the future also, because of the carbon trail that we all otherwise leave behind. So it's a real opportunity to learn together and across regions, and we from UNEP are very grateful to having been involved in it. Thank you.
Well, Inga, thank you so much indeed for sharing those thoughts and just highlighting that vibrant discussion that happened on all those issues that you raised, and that broadening of the conversation, the people that could engage that perhaps wouldn't always have get to the physical Regional Climate Week, so something hopefully to be continued through the virtual. So thank you so much for that. Now, next, on behalf of the World Bank, delighted to have Mr. Vivek Pathak, your Director of Climate Business and International Finance Cooperation. So, Mr. Pathak, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Inger, you just stole my thunder. I was going to throw out some of those numbers, but very good afternoon. And I'll just relate an anecdote. Last night, after I finished dinner and I was going back to the hotel, the driver asked me, "What are you here for?" And I said, "I'm here for COP." And he said, "You know, I started my life as a foreman working on coal. And today we have no coal in this part of the world." And I said, "Wow, and how did you reskill?" And he said, "Well, I couldn't reskill, but I could drive a car, so I became a driver, and I'm driving a car." And the reason I say that is because as we talk about a transition out of fossil fuels, I think it's absolutely critical that we don't miss out on reskilling people who have jobs there. Otherwise, we're going to be solving the climate problem, but we're going to be creating a social problem. So coming on to the theme for this afternoon, a big thank you to the UNEP, UNDP, and UNFCCC for all the fantastic work that you all have done in getting these regional climate weeks across Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Caribbean and Africa. The past summer has felt a bit strange for those of us who are in climate, because almost every week there was a climate headline, if not every day. But the good part of that was the people who weren't that engaged in climate have also now realized the climate challenge, I think. Yeah. And for those of us who work on it on a daily basis, it's been particularly challenging because we had deliverables in the run-up to COP. We had the COVID recovery, which we at the World Bank Group have been actively involved. And we had the pressing needs on what's happening around us with the impact of climate on economies and to the planet as a whole. Which is why all the efforts of all of you all in shaping these climate weeks across these three regions have been particularly commendable. And I would say all the more commendable because we had to do it virtually. Yeah. Getting stakeholders to agree on things and come together virtually was something we never dreamt we could do, but we've gotten used to it. Having said that, I do value the opportunity to meet in person, so this is a real treat for me personally because we can actually have face-to-face discussions. The World Bank Group led on the thematic track, examining national actions and economy-wide approaches to deliver sustainable and green recoveries. And we found that there was quite a bit of synergies through these discussions when you try and bring in the possible actors and you try and link this and integrate it into a COVID recovery. And I think that's important because at one time there was skepticism, should we focus on the COVID recovery or should we focus on climate? But what we've seen is that there is a synergy and these two can and in many countries are happening in tandem. Some of the really other exciting discussions we found across Asia Pacific was how the island and coastal communities have integrated nature-based solutions into climate action, showing how the LAC region has been collaborating on carbon pricing, on harmonized carbon pricing, which we all know is critical as we try and decarbonize some of the higher emitting sectors, especially in manufacturing. And this was really focusing on measurement, reporting, and verification with a goal to ultimately, hopefully, link some of these markets in the medium to long term. And also learning about how the African countries are thinking through recommendations on finance and financing platforms and climate resilience, and coming up with some innovative ideas on this front. So just picking up on what Inga said, I think we did a report a few years ago which said, yes, I'd like to believe the glass is half full. The gap is huge, but that also means there's a huge opportunity. And there's almost a $23 trillion business opportunity in emerging markets in the decade starting 2020 or 2019, give or take a few trillion with the pandemic now. And this will create over 200 million jobs. So getting people to be ready and be skilled for these jobs is critical. And at the same time, it will lead to a reduction of almost 4 billion tons of carbon dioxide. At the World Bank Group, we've just come up with a climate change action plan, and that is, for us, climate and development are really central. We've committed to Paris alignment in varying degrees between 2023 and 2025, and that's something which I think is critical, because in emerging markets to be Paris aligned in some of the more challenging countries is going to be a challenge for us, especially in FCS and IDA markets. So once again, a big thank you for all the rich discussions in the past few weeks, in the regional climate weeks that we've had. And we also look forward to the MENA Climate Week very shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Vivek. Lovely to have you with us and sharing that, and reminding us what we've got to look forward to next year with the MENA Climate Week, which we're looking forward to hearing about later. But you stressing the sort of diversity of the regions, and I think one of the things that came out was people from one region could virtually join another conversation, and I think that strength of the conversations over the year was so valuable. Now, very sadly, Patricia Espinosa is not able to be with us. She's been called to a bilateral with the SG, who is at COP now. So we're very sorry to miss her in person, but she had prepared, in case she couldn't come, she had prepared a video. So I'm going to ask to play that video, but just to her representative on stage, welcome James Grabert, just to say hello. Thank you, James, for being here. Very much good to have you, Director of Climate Change, so thank you. But could we play the video, that message that the Executive Secretary has shared? Thank you.
It's a pleasure to participate in the culmination of this important year of progress on our regional climate weeks and discuss how we move forward with respect to incorporating their results in the COP26 process. When I opened Latin America and Caribbean Climate Week in May, I said that 2021 must be the year the world commits to making pivotal, transformational change in global climate policy and action. I said it must be the year we move closer to implementing the Paris Agreement, the year we finally unleash its true potential when the world needs it most. At Asia Pacific Climate Week in July, I said that while we must all, government, business, and civil society, engage in a race to zero emissions to ensure the longevity, health, and prosperity of humanity upon this planet, I also said that making such an enormous transition should not be viewed through the lens of sacrifice, but opportunity. Here, I meant the development of new technologies and innovations that will drive future industries, industries with sustainability at the heart of their operations. And only a few days ago, at Africa Climate Week, I said that to achieve this transition, to capture these opportunities, a significant rise in climate ambition must guide all of our actions in all sectors. We are in a race against time. We still have time to reach our objectives under the Paris Agreement, but that window is rapidly closing. Success means ensuring that no voices remain unheard. Again, this is why these regional climate weeks are so important and why their results must be incorporated into the discussions at COP26. The power and influence of such impressive teams of cities, regions, businesses, investors, and educational institutions from all over the world are extremely valuable. This is inclusive multilateralism at its finest and remains fundamental to reaching our climate goals. I look forward to continuing to strengthen our collaboration to ensure that COP26 is a success. Thank you.
So I know Secretary Patricia Espinosa is hugely sorry not to be with us to hand over the communique from the Regional Climate Weeks to the UK presidency. But it's great that we've had her message here. Now, and she talked about no voices remaining unheard. I thought that was a very powerful message that she gave us, and sharing these critical results of the weeks we'd heard. So I'm going to invite Janet Rogan on behalf of the UK presidency as Regional Ambassador for Africa, and she's here with two colleagues from the UK who've been very much instrumental part of the Regional Climate Weeks. Fiona Clowder, lovely to see you, Fiona, Regional Ambassador for Latin America and the Caribbean, and David Moran, a Regional Ambassador for Europe, Central Asia, Turkey and Iran, and all of them played roles in the Regional Climate Weeks. But Janet, on their behalf, if you could say a few words, please.
Thank you very much, and of course on behalf of the UK COP presidency, I'm very, very delighted to be here today. And I have to say, looking back, when we had the postponement of COP because of COVID, it's then a challenge really to keep going the momentum, to keep the progress going. And I have to say that the partnership from colleagues like UNDP, AHIM and UNEP, the World Bank, and of course UNFCCC in this whole process and the whole UN family is actually something that as the presidency we've really appreciated. And I think these regional climate weeks in particular have brought home the fact that we need to work together in partnership across all of the agendas. We have a sustainable development agenda, we have a climate agenda, we have peace and security agendas, and they all come together in these regions where climate impact is felt on the ground. I think COP26 has shown us with a great richness since the World Leaders Summit last week, when we had 120, I think, plus world leaders here, really coming together to show solidarity and action. That what we've prepared through the regional climate weeks is really feeding through into increased momentum on the ground. So we had, as Patricia already mentioned, we had 3 of the regional climate weeks already leading up to COP and feeding into it. And we have the MENA one still to come. And it will take forward, I think, with a great hope, the ambition coming out of COP26 into that MENA Regional Climate Week and continue the process. Because, as Ahim said, I think it doesn't end with the 2 weeks of COP. It moves forward, and our presidency will be very delighted to look forward and carry the results from this COP and from the Regional Climate Weeks and all the work that is being done forward into the new incoming COP27 presidency, which should be announced tomorrow, which will be the Africa presidency. It's very important because as we have tried to bring a balance through this COP26 between adaptation and resilience and high ambition on mitigation. And we see the interplay between the longer term on mitigation and the immediate needs of adaptation and building resilience, and the financial requirements that go along with that. Bringing them together is again, something that we can feed back through regional climate weeks, through the activists, through the young people, through our partners on the ground. And we really look forward as the presidency to hearing and receiving the presentations, the results from the COP26 Catalyst activity and the presentations that we're going to hear very shortly. So I think it remains for me to say thank you very much to all of those partners who've been involved in the Regional Climate Weeks, who've brought it to COP26 and are going to enable us to take it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. And I think one of the things that the UK presidency has found so valuable at these regional climate weeks, there's one practical example we want to just share very briefly as part of that before we do the formal handover, to give you an example of something really valuable, a UK presidency initiative that used and found the climate weeks so valuable. And I'm going to invite Yamakami Idris just to say a couple of words. Yamakami is from the government of Malawi. You might want to either hear or there, Yamakami, to introduce the COP Catalyst, which is this UK presidency, and just demonstrate through his very brief remark just the value of those regional climate weeks. Yamakami, please.
Yep. Thank you so much, distinguished delegates and speakers here. Indeed, as explained, the road to COP26 was indeed very long because we had a long wait to COP26. but the regional climate weeks helped to keep that momentum and indeed provided a platform for the COP26 Catalyst for Climate Action. This is a UK presidency initiative which was there to discuss issues of capacity building for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So at each of the regional climate weeks, the Catalyst Action Group indeed ran a series of consultations open to all participants of the regional climate weeks to listen to their experiences and lessons of capacity building in support of the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So with these lessons learned and experiences, the Catalyst further indeed explored on the ways on how we can improve the delivery of the capacity building. And we had at least 5 action groups, of which we have produced recommendations on how capacity building can be implemented, including in adaptation, carbon markets, the transparency, as well as climate finance. So yesterday, we also had another very important function where we shared the recommendation from each action group, and we're also calling on others to endorse these regional recommendations from these coming out from the regional climate weeks. As you can see there, we have that website where you can indeed access the recommendations from each action group. And indeed, you can also go to the website of the Wilton Park to endorse and indeed have access to the recommendations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, young colleagues. I think that was a really practical example. We've got 2 other representatives, Andrew and Aglaya. Just one sentence you're going to share, because these was such a valuable experience from those climate weeks, and this catalyst is a direct result. The outcomes are direct results as part of the UK Presents. And Andrew, one sentence from the Global Adaptation Centre. Thanks,
Robin. Well, just to say that I was part of the group that did the recommendations for the adaptation communications. And I think, we still struggle to some extent to make the linkages between the global, the national, and the local. And what was fantastic about those events that we held as part of the weeks was that we had representatives from these different levels, but we also had, government representatives, non-government representatives, and they could all tell us what they could bring to the table. So that really helped us strengthen and understand what local needs were, what thoughts were on what these adaptation communications would be, and what sort of capacity building was needed. So I think they're incredibly useful for that kind of experience sharing, but also South-South learning, which we talk about so much.
Thank you. And Aglaya.
Thank you very much. And I only wanted to add, as member of the Action Group on Carbon Market Participation, that it was really great to hear from everyone, from the lessons in the past, from the initiatives that are ongoing and that are promising, and to together sketch out the way forward for transformative capacity building.
Thank you so much, and I hope everyone will take a look at the recommendations. They're very short, but it just gives a really practical example of something that the Regional Climate Weeks really drove and came together to make something really practical happen. So thank you so much. So that is part of the UK Presidency contribution, if you like. I'm going to invite now the formal part of this almost a handover, if you like, and we're going to invite a family photo, if we may, for those as we do this formal handover, so to speak. So those on the front row from Fiona onwards to come and join us, please, on stage, and we will take that photograph. Fiona and David and all the colleagues. We've got representatives from the Uganda, from Dominican Republic and Japan, who were so generous hosts of these virtual sessions. I think no. Lovely. So we'll just take that. Brilliant. Sorry? Yes, good. Would you like to be on stage? Or you represent and the many. Brilliant. Master, whatever you like. Please feel comfortable. Please feel comfortable.
Let's do 2, one down and one with. And everybody feel comfortable. Okay, and right here. Beautiful. And then one with.
We should say, celebrate the regional climate weeks. This is such a valuable... And how nice to bring everyone together on stage in one place when we've all seen one another virtually in different spaces. So that's so wonderfully valuable. Congratulations. Thank you so much to everyone. So if I may invite those who've been on the stage to step off it, and those in the next conversation to join the next conversation to come on to stage. Thank you so much, Vivek. That's lovely. Thank you. Thanks, Janet. Lovely to see you. Thank you, James, so much for being here. James, I'm so sorry. Did you want to say anything? No, it's okay. Did you want to say something?
No, it's okay. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
Do we have handover?
Yes.
Do we have handover video?
Oh, so I think that was it, sort of thing. Yes, I think. Do you want to take a photo of the two of you then, with it? Online, watching us come together in person. It is so fabulous to be together, but we're very much with you in spirit online, and so glad you're able to watch and be part of this through these amazing virtual conversations. So we now move on to the next part, to really think about and hear first about the new MENA Climate Week, which we've already highlighted, that will launch in February 2022 and is the next part of this journey. So I'm delighted to welcome His Excellency Walid Ali Ahmed Salman, who's Vice Chairman of the World Green Economy Organization.
Thank you so much. Honestly, what I see in this crowd, that what we see, there is an impact toward achieving the 1.5 as a target. But even though what we feel that there is a positive feed that will help everyone to be following to support each other as a collaboration. So we'd like first to thank United Nations Climate Change Secretariat for organizing this important event during COP26. I really would like to congratulate the host countries, global and regional partner that have successfully hosting the Regional Climate Week. What we honestly promise in United Arab Emirates and Dubai to have very much successful event, because what we want to do is really lead by example. We have a lot of story that we want to share globally. For example, recently His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the leader, launched in October the net zero emission strategy. And this was one of the key success factors to have it replicated around the region. So what we noticed after United Arab Emirates, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, even they launched their net zero strategy, as well as Bahrain. This is going forward because what we see, you cannot go without having a clear vision and strategy and roadmap. So this is what we're doing. Today, there is a very clear roadmap by 2050. And in addition to this, what we're focusing on the evolvement of the technologies. So recently we have launched the pilot project of the green hydrogen, because like back in 2010, we came up with the renewable, so we were very much successful. Today we have more than about 1,200 megawatt of renewable connected to the grid. But salt technology cannot continue. I mean, we need to add another technology. So we are now testing the green hydrogen as a new technology that will help us moving forward to have the energy mix. So there will be a lot of definitely engagement. We really thank the UNDP, thank UNFCCC having together to organize such an event. And I would like to invite everyone to participate in that event because it will be the first event in the MENA region. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, an important milestone in February next year, and thank you so much to the UAE for hosting that. And look, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to contributing to that. So I want to turn next, if I may, to the Dominican Republic, who hosted the very first of these virtual Climate Weeks, and delighted to have with us Dr. Max Puig to speak. He's the Executive Vice President of the National Council for Climate Change in the Dominican Republic, and I think I want to acknowledge the presence of the Vice Minister, Her Excellency Ms. Milagros de Camp. Lovely, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to thank the support of the United Nations partners and the Secretariat of the UNFCCC, who have made possible the celebration of the Regional Climate Week for Latin America and Caribbean on virtual interface, which we had the honor to being host during 2021. It is also crucial to highlight the support received from both COP25 and COP26 presidencies, who had understood the importance of scenarios as such, able to mobilize civil society, private sector, and public sector together before climate negotiation. The numerous participation and engagement witnessed during the virtual session of this event demonstrate the multi-sectorial engagement and commitment to show up and showcase best practice, needs the real capacity we have to be able to tackle climate action ahead for our participation at decision-making scenarios. I am convinced that this process helped us all enhance and enrich our agendas. The steady work that the presidencies of COP26 has carried out to be able to have this in-person massive event assure the possibility to carry out events of this nature within frameworks and protocols that allowed us to feel in a safe environment and at the same time permits us to show how the warmth of the Dominican Republic as a host. After we responsibly decide to postpone the in-person session until 2022. Nevertheless, from all around the world, all eyes are on us, and the promise we made to keep 1.5 alive is still open. Having said this, I would personally like to extend my congratulations to Mr. Alok Sharma for the organization of this in-person COP. Thanks to this, we are still working on the right path and accelerating on the road to achieve this promise. It's imperative to have something clear. The Regional Climate Weeks must occupy a relevant spot in the UNFCCC calendar of events, as it maximizes the tools that we have available to allow this for sensibilization and to exposure of interest and expectation from all sectors of society, channeling all these through regional agendas and multi-sectorial, multi-level dialogues. I must remind you that we are at a crucial moment. There is no longer any doubt about the origin, seriousness, and urgency of the climate crisis. Promises have long been made. The present COP was envisaged as a summit of realization of this promise. Hence, the important mobilization in Glasgow and all over the planet. In view of the Regional Climate Week, I will insist that there are not partial solutions to the crisis. Humanity goes forward together or sinks. I say this thinking of my country, of our neighbor Haiti, and all the particularly threatened island states of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Puig, and that plea from the island states, which certainly came through in the regional climate week. Thank you so much for hosting that and for your comments just now. They're very important points. Thank you so much. Can I now thank, after Dominican Republic hosting the Latin America Climate Week, we travelled virtually to Japan and for the Asia Pacific week. So I'd love to invite Mr. Shoda Yutaka, who's Vice Minister for Global Environmental Affairs in the Ministry of Environment in Japan. Over to you, Shoda-san.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate the UK COP26 presidency and all of us be able to have a COP this crucial year. As a host country of the Asia Pacific Climate Week, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation for the efforts made by the UNFCCC Secretariat, core and regional partners, and the UK. This decade will be decisive in limiting the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. Our climate is rapidly changing due to human influence and is already altering our planet in drastic ways. We need to listen to science and work together to integrate climate actions into our recovery from the global health crisis. In this regard, I believe the regional climate weeks have provided a valuable platform for all actors to come together, listen to different ideas, and build partnerships for our planet. Japan has committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050, but keeping 1.5 degrees alive, we all need to take actions. Japan announced last June our contribution to provide support was $60 billion US, both in public and private finance in the next 5 years. On top of that, as Prime Minister Kishida announced at COP26, Japan will provide up to $10 billion US in the coming 5 years, which would include our contribution to the launch of innovative financial facility for climate as we partner with the Asian Development Bank and others to support the decarbonization of Asia and beyond. We are also determined to contribute to the success of COP26, completing the Paris Rulebook, especially Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Let's start the decade of strong actions with successful outcomes here in Glasgow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shoda. Really, thank you for hosting the Climate Week and for your important comments just now and Japan's contribution. Thank you so much for that. And we then went to the Africa for the Climate Week in September, and really pleased that Ms. Beatrice Anyuwa, from Minister of State from Environment, Uganda, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your reflection on hosting the Regional Climate Week in Africa.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I would like to, on behalf of my government, Uganda, to reiterate the importance of Regional Climate Week. As one of the host countries of the Regional Climate Week 2021, I would like to bring to your attention the importance of the climate weeks. These events, as evidence, play a vital role in bringing together governments, private sector, the civil society in developing countries at a regional level to showcase climate leadership and build momentum towards COP26. The events provide a platform for stakeholders to collaborate, raise ambition, and advance action towards our common climate goals. We see this platform as an integral part of the intergovernmental process and momentum from this year should be actually carried forward. Furthermore, the regional climate weeks are only possible through support by the host governments and collaboration with partner organizations. It is therefore important to recognize all the partners and parties who work together to make the Regional Climate Week 2021 a success. With the return to in-person and hybrid meetings, the Regional Climate Weeks are positioned to support implementation with well-intended meetings throughout the years in the key regions. Therefore, I would like to call on the presidency to provide necessary resources to support the organization of these regional climate weeks and recognize them as an important vehicle for parties and non-party stakeholders to interact regionally and deliver the goals of the Paris Agreement. I would like to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Anyo, and for just highlighting how important a platform the Regional Climate Weeks are, and for the host governments, the role you played in Uganda, and that opportunity to do more throughout the year, and how to enable that. So thank you for that contribution enormously. What you said about thanking the partner organisations is also so key, because all of the Regional Climate Weeks couldn't have happened without the host governments, but also with the partner organisations. So I'd now like to move to bring in some of those partner organisations who sadly can't be with us today physically here. I hope some of them are online, but we have got some videos to share with you from four of the partner organisations. The first we'd like to show is from UNESCAP, from Armida Salcia Al-Isjabana, who's the Executive Secretary of UNESCAP. If we could play that first video, please.
Mr. Alok Sharma, President of COP26, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to participate in this global high-level event to convey the outcomes of the Asia-Pacific Regional Climate Week 2021. Over 3,700 participants joined the virtual Asia-Pacific Climate Week 2021, including more than a third represented NGOs, indigenous communities, and youth representatives. National and local government officials, the private sector, and the scientific community were also well represented, alongside colleagues from international organizations and the media. The thematic sessions gave us clear directions on how climate action in the region could be enhanced. First, countries in the Asia-Pacific region need to become more ambitious in updating their nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. A recently released report by ESCAP and partner UN agencies shows that current commitments will lead to increased emissions instead of the required emission reduction of 45% in 2030 compared to 2010 levels. Increased ambition as well as stringent implementation are needed, supported by long-term low-carbon development strategies with clear near-term milestones. Such plans require innovative financing mechanisms, including through debt for climate swaps and carbon pricing. Financing and investment in the region will need deep transformation to support the greening and decarbonizing of the economy, production, and consumption. Second, investing in adaptation to natural hazards and building resilience is both the most effective and the most cost-effective to handle the expanding and overlaying risks that lie ahead. Localizing adaptation policies includes increasing green spaces in cities to improve their resilience. Active engagement of women and girls is critical to enhancing adaptive capacities while safeguarding the needs of the most vulnerable. And third, we require a swift, determined move away from fossil fuels, starting with phasing out coal use and ending fossil fuel subsidies. Increasing the current small share of renewables in the energy mix will require public and private investment, as well as enhanced sub-regional and regional energy connectivity, especially cross-border electricity grids. The rapidly decreasing renewable energy costs and regional energy connectivity, especially cross-border electricity.
Sounds like we're having a bit of a problem with that. We've valued hearing what UNESCAP call from the Climate Weeks and their success in those conversations. If we might move on to the second one, if that's possible, please. The second contribution comes from the Banque Ouest Africaine de Développement, Serge Ecu, who's the president there. If that video is okay to play, we would welcome that, please. I think during the...
Excellencies, honorable and distinguished guests, for almost 2 years now, the world has been experiencing an unprecedented pandemic that has revealed links between deforestation, ecosystem degradation, and emergence of new infectious disease. It appears that the COVID-19 crisis has come to all of us as a warning. We're called to join forces to find viable solutions to preserve our common home and slacken climate change. During the last Africa Climate Week high-level roundtable, I pointed out the importance to re-include Earth in our economic equations. Earth has an invaluable price that isn't expressed in our accounting standards. However, what would we do without the ecologic services our planet provides? Worse, degrading our common habitat represents an immeasurable cost and exposes us to uninsurable, multi-dimensional systemic risk. That's why climate change resilience solutions need to be implemented, taking into account the 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The last P is paramount. To win the global fight against climate change, just like the COVID-19, only close collaboration and synergy of actions can bring about sustainable solutions. The current COP26 comes at a time where IPCC report has never been so worrying. The scientific community is clear. This COP26 puts our credibility to the test. It is clear. This COP26 puts our credibility to the test.
Oh, sorry, we're having a shortening the videos, but I think we get a really important points that Mr. Serge Ecu was making, and the importance of partnership in these really difficult times. So thank you for that. I know our speakers are very busy, so if you have to slip away, we will fully understand that. I forgot to mention that earlier, but hopefully we've got 3 more videos we're hoping to play. And we'd love to hear from the Asian Development Bank, where Mr. Bambung Susantono has kindly prepared a video as the Vice President of the ADB. If we can try that, please.
On behalf of the Asian Development Bank, I would like to congratulate all of you, our partners organizations, for producing this very successful series of regional climate weeks, despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. It is also my great pleasure to share with you our views on the importance of the Asia-Pacific Climate Week and its thematic discussions. As we all know, Asia and the Pacific is on the front lines in the battle against climate change. On one hand, the region produces around 50% of global greenhouse gas emissions. On the other, it also must deal with intensifying floods, drought, typhoons, and cyclones, along with heat waves and heat stress. These affect economies, livelihood, food and water security, and the health and safety of hundreds of millions of people. Needless to say, this all slows our progress in building sustainable and inclusive development for our region. Thus, it is very important we listen to climate science and the voices of those most affected, the vulnerable, and our young people. Each year, we see more of the impact and read more alarming projections. And yet, we remain far from meeting the Paris Agreement goals. I am happy to see the recent wave of net zero emission pledges from many countries. But the real question is this: what can we do to ensure these pledges translate into both urgent actions and long-term strategies? At ADB, we are helping our developing members deal with these existential challenges. We are increasing our investment and strengthening our commitment to tackle climate change. For example, we recently announced plans to raise our climate finance to $100 billion from 2019 to 2030. Aside from our climate mitigation work, we also announced plans to scale up investments in adaptation and resilience, $9 billion in total from 2019 to 2024. We also intend to better align our operations with Paris Agreement. ADB expects full alignment of our sovereign operations by July 2023 and our non-sovereign operations by July 2025. One of our most important contributions is working with our developing members on the policies and capacity building to meet their NDCs and create viable long-term strategies. Distinguished ministers, head of organizations, my esteemed colleagues and participants, more than anything, we at ADB appreciate the importance of international cooperations to reach our common goal of net zero emissions and a climate resilient future. It is our honor to be part of the Regional Climate Weeks to enhance cooperation and strengthen partnerships. The sessions we co-organized for the July 2021 Asia-Pacific Climate Week range from Article 6 of the Paris Agreement to climate finance, carbon pricing, electric and low-carbon mobility, green recovery, and a just transitions to raising NDCs and adaptations. We were all able to explore the challenges and opportunities to climate action and discuss real solutions. For example, we discussed the importance of resilience for decarbonization. Among other topics examined were sustainable energy, transport and mobility, and nature-based solutions. So let me close by emphasizing again that shared commitment and international cooperation are the key ingredients that make transitions to net zero and climate resilience achievable in our Asia and Pacific region. I wish you all a successful COP26. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our appreciation to the Vice President there of the Asian Development Bank, Mr. Bambang Susantono, giving us an Asian perspective and context and ADB's partnership in the region to achieve the ambitions that we all hope for, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your contributions, really appreciate that. And one final partner we want to bring in and thank is the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, where Mr. Kazuhiko Takeuchi is going to share a few reflections as one of the key partners involved in the Regional Climate Week. If we could play that video, please.
I appreciate this opportunity to deliver my message today at the Regional Climate Week leading up to COP26. I would like to thank the UNFCCC and other partners for their collaborative efforts. The virtual thematic sessions organized this year have helped push many stakeholders toward committing to net zero by 2050. This is critical because, as UN Secretary General Guterres has emphasized, this is the decisive decade. To achieve the 1.5-degree target under the Paris Agreement, Regional Climate Week play a key role in strengthening partnership around the world. We have learned many things from the virtual thematic session at APCW 2021 toward achieving our goal by 2050. In particular, I would like to stress 3 points. First, long-term planning and national commitments should be enhanced toward net zero by 2050. Urgent regional climate action that builds on green recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is necessary. Collaboration with various stakeholders is indispensable to accelerate action. IGES will continue to collaborate with national and local governments, the private sector, civil society, and youth. Young people play an especially important role in the decisive decade. Second, nature-based solutions are integrated approaches that are critical for addressing climate mitigation, adaptation, and biodiversity conservation. This approach is urgently needed in cities. Increasing urbanization highlights the need to accelerate city resilience. To build sustainable cities that are in harmony with nature, climate resilience through nature-based solutions is critical. To enhance resilience, city and local governments will play an important role in the Asia-Pacific region. Third, social transformation is necessary to redesign our society for the post-pandemic future. Importantly, social transformation can add value not only in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but also improving our quality of life. In the case of Toyama City in Japan, mobility was transformed through the integration of various policies, leading to better community health and resilience. This transformation also led to behavior change, enabling the emergence of new lifestyles that improve people's well-being. Let's build on such initiatives and let's work together to accelerate our actions now in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. Thank you, and I wish you all a fruitful COP26 in Glasgow.
Well, our thanks to Mr. Kazuhiko Takeuchi from the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, and just reminding us about some of the key messages that were focused in on in the Regional Climate Weeks, including holistic transformation, city resilience, and young people, some of those many messages that are coming through. So thanks to that, to them, and to all the partners who've enabled these Regional Climate Weeks to be so successful. Our final contribution comes from the High-Level Champions for Climate Action, a joint video with Nigel Topping from the UK and Mr. Gonzalo Munoz from Chile. A valuable work that they are doing and have been doing together. So if we could play that video, please.
We'd like to start by thanking the host countries, the government of Dominican Republic, the government of Japan, and the government of Uganda, as well as the core partners UNDP, UNEP, the World Bank, and the UNFCCC, and many other regional partners, initiatives, and coalitions for delivering the 2021 Regional Climate Weeks during this unprecedented and challenging period. The Regional Climate Weeks are so important because they provide a unique collaborative platform for in-depth discussions on practical solutions around the challenges faced within the region. And as the high-level champions, these climate weeks allow us to bring in those perspectives into our work and enable us to be as impactful as possible in driving ambitious and immediate action while addressing the needs of local communities.
We are really thrilled to follow and engage in the virtual roundtables in March, where the huge potential in each region and the importance of engaging regional stakeholders were definitely highlighted. That is why accelerating climate action in all regions and at the local level, in particular in developing and most vulnerable countries, is a key pillar of the strategy of an improved Marrakesh partnership that we are working on. So as part of this work, this year we launch our Implementation Lab series at the virtual thematic sessions. These labs are one tool that we as champions have started for the critical decade of action as part of the request from parties on how to improve the Marrakesh partnership. These discussions spotlight businesses, investors, cities, regions and civil society with specific areas of expertise that could support national governments in the regions in implementing their NDCs, NAPs and of course long-term strategies. For example, we brought together representatives of national governments and non-state actors to discuss the transition to renewable energy and financing nature-based solutions in Latin America and the Caribbean, establishing net zero resilient cement and concrete industries, and enhancing climate-smart agriculture in Asia-Pacific, and most recently, the net zero and resilient transport future for Africa.
And we also collaborated with the Technology Executive Committee to organise a deep dive session at the Asia Pacific Climate Week on green hydrogen, exploring the substantial growth opportunities for green hydrogen to accelerate the energy transition, a transition that will only be achieved by ensuring collaboration within the industry and across countries. And finally, the regional climate weeks have allowed our sibling campaigns, the Race to Resilience and the Race to Zero, to spread regionally and globally, and were instrumental in the campaign's exponential growth over this past year. In 3 regions, we convened dialogues around the Race to Resilience, covering a variety of topics, such as how financing mechanisms can enable climate adaptation in coastal communities, the key role that cities play in creating resilient populations, and showcasing how non-state actors that are protecting the lives and livelihoods of those citizens by creating climate-resilient dwellings and water supplies. The Race to Zero campaign was also integral to many net zero discussions, in particular a session held at the Asia Pacific Climate Week promoting zero carbon cities through the decarbonisation domino effect, which highlighted how multi-level climate action and collaboration will be critical to securing successful net zero policy, action and technology in cities around the world.
All of these dialogues that we have convened and supported during the climate weeks should be viewed as a larger package and how we plan to regionalize our work going forward. We will look to set up regional hubs that will allow us to continue to refine the climate action pathways and the 2030 breakthroughs to take into account regional perspective, mobilizing actors from developing countries, amplifying their voices, supporting them where they need it most, and activate the ambition loop within the national governments. We trust that the outcomes from discussions at the Regional Climate Weeks in 2021 will greatly contribute to the discussion at COP26, and looking forward to engaging in them in the future, especially in the first ever MENA Climate Week early next year, where we can use that as a platform, take forward the post-COP26 outcomes and build towards COP27. Rest assured, we remain committed to make the Regional Climate Weeks a real success and use them as platforms to bring everyone on board across the globe to drive ambition and transformation action.
So what a powerful and passionate message, I think, to end our session today from the high-level champions, and huge thanks to them. I think really championing the acceleration to climate action and the role that regions can play, and some of the issues that they were, and the campaigns they were leading, Race to Zero, Race to Resilience, but also the examples of sessions that they were hosting on labs and green hydrogen and so much more. So huge good luck to them as they take that forward. I think on their behalf and on our behalf, we want to thank all the host countries, the lead partners, lead organisations who made this year's 2021 Regional Climate Week such a success and such an important staging post on the road to COP in troubled times, but through online virtual conversations. So huge thanks to them and their contribution. And I'm sure we all look forward to 2022 and the Regional Climate Weeks starting in MENA in February, and hope they can spark more action taking forward agreements that we hope from here and raise more ambition worldwide. So thank you very much for joining this session where we've championed the Regional Climate Weeks and we've handed the summaries, the communique from the UNFCCC and the UN on behalf of all the bodies to the UK presidency and the rich, diverse views and calls in those. And thank you so much and look forward to everyone the successful weeks next year, and wish everyone here and online a successful COP26. So thank you so much indeed for joining us, and thank you to those online. Thank you.